Welcome into Jungle Tales, a Pirate Baseball podcast. You're watching This Week in Pirate Baseball, coming to you on Monday, April 28th, as we take a look back at East Carolina's series loss to Tulane as inconsistent play continued to plague the Pirates. East Carolina falling in a big way, 20-5 in the series opener, and then bounced back after that run ruling in the initial game of the series with a run ruling of their own, 15-5 on Saturday, but unfortunately fell 7-2 in the series finale on Sunday afternoon. And right now, to break that down and a whole lot more as we take a look at the week ahead against Elon and Wichita State, as well as the American as a whole, I welcome in former East Carolina pitcher John White. John, how are you? What were your thoughts on the weekend?
Good evening, Bubba. Thanks for having me. Yeah, that was a tough start. The floodgates opened up after a couple outs in the first inning, and they never looked back. And it was kind of a rough outing for us, but it's one to forget. And they quickly forgot about that. Came back the second game, and as you mentioned, run ruled them in the eighth inning with the walk-off home run by Irby. So then the rubber game on Sunday was kind of I don't know how to explain it. Started off slow and just was kind of a boring game in a sense for our boys on the field. I didn't feel like there was a lot of enthusiasm. I'm not sure how to explain it, but we just never could muster anything, and they took the final for two game to one weekend series win. So unfortunate start to the series, but looked good in the second, and then we just couldn't capitalize in the third.
And also joining us for a second consecutive week after making his debut a week ago, very excited to have back on the show, Johnny Robertson, better known as Johnny Stats. JR, how are we?
Hey, I'm doing well, Baba. Thanks for having me back. And it's a treat to be on here with John. I've always loved listening to what he has to say about pirate baseball. Going back to the start of the series, yeah, we got run ruled and we got beat 20-5. But I mean, I'm trying to find some positive out of this. And if one thing I can definitely say that I was impressed with was Taylor Grubbs. Now, he comes in the fifth inning. Tulane's already put up 5 runs on the board, yet to record an out. He comes in and instantly gives up a home run. Then he hits the next batter. And then I guess he found something. He had a 3-pitch and then 3 outs. He pitched a pop-up and then a double play, and he was out of that inning. And then he came back in the 6th, and he had a 2-pitch ground out, another 2-pitch ground out, and a strikeout. So, I mean, he's looking good in inning 6 too. Then he comes back in 7, strikeout, walk, then a 1-pitch pop-up, and then another 3-pitch ground out. And he had himself a really nice night. A matter of fact, I mean, other than Ethan Norby and Taylor Grubbs, who they had a combined ERA of 0.96 for that series. The other 8 guys, 19.02 was their ERA. So hopefully everybody learned from it, and hopefully Taylor has found something, and we really need him to, and we need all these guys to find something. So I was, as far as Friday goes, I was a little uplifted by that.
Yeah, and the one thing about the Friday game,
you want me to go the rest of the week? I mean, the whole series. I'll make it brief. I would rather listen to John talk about it, to be honest with you. But Saturday.
I was going to mention real quick on the Friday game, the one thing that stands out for Tulane, they only use 1 pitcher. So they're going into the weekend full bore with all their pitchers. And you saw what happened on Sunday. They were able to use their closer to put in some solid innings. But I'll let you take over and talk about Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah. That's big. Yeah. Okay. Well, before I exit Friday, we had 13 free passes, 9 walks, and 4 hit batters. I mean, you just can't do that and win. I mean, we've had double-digit free passes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 times this year, and we're 1-6. The first game being George Mason in the opening weekend, we squeaked out a 4-3 victory. But after that, I mean, we lost every one of those games, and that's to be expected. I will say that Friday, another bright spot for me was Nick Parham's first home run as a Pirate. That had a smile on my face that I just couldn't get off. I followed that kid around the Valley Baseball League. Him and Colby were both on the Charlottesville Tom Sox, and it's impossible not to like him. So I know he's, hasn't had as many at bats as he would like, but that home run, that was awesome. So that'll wrap up Friday for me. Now getting to the Saturday, we gave out 13 free passes on Friday. Well, Saturday we cut it down to 4. And that paid off. We won the game. And then Sunday, it got even better. We only gave up 1 free pass. We didn't win the game, but maybe we're heading in the right direction there. All in all, I don't know, it remains to be seen. But let's move on to Wichita State and Elon.
Well, JR, let's circle back to last week's show. You recall, and I gave you credit for this on social media when the decision was announced, when Cliff Godwin said that Brad Pruitt would be getting the ball on Friday and that Ethan Norby would not be starting. And that decision, was made for the reasons you would expect it to be made. Ethan had been struggling. We were trying to jumpstart his confidence, but and then also, by doing so, you were going to be able to pitch him multiple times a week, which would boast a very struggling bullpen. And unfortunately, that game against NC State was not able to be played because he was likely going to see action against the Wolfpack. But then Ethan Norby, I didn't necessarily think we were going to see the move that was made, taking him out of the Friday role. But if you were going to do it, it made sense to do it when we did, on one hand, from the standpoint that we were coming off of Thursday, Friday, Saturday weekend. Brad Pruitt was going to have a full week of rest. But then I know, John, you would have preferred to see Ethan Norby perhaps stay in that Friday role because of the lefty matchup against Tulane.
Yeah, so that's the big deal that I kind of made. I thought that Ethan probably would have been a better option against Tulane. Tulane struggled more against the left-handers and may have kept Ethan in the role one more week and then let Brad kind of acclimate to what he was doing. And I know he got the second game start the weekend prior, kind of take that pressure off of Friday night from Brad, let him kind of roll into that the role that looks like coach wanted him to take. So you got to think about it for Brad. He didn't pitch all week. He'd been used to pitching a lot more innings, a lot more pitches during the week. So preparation wise, it's a lot different. For a starter, you have to prep different. So there's always that going in the back of your head. A guy's got to say, I'm starting Friday. I need to, get my workouts in this kind of form or fashion. And then Ethan, on the other hand, now is not starting on Friday, and he's in a role that he's familiar with, which is out of the bullpen. He does very well, but I thought maybe he should have started on Friday still, held that back one more week. And at this point in the season, you talk about getting more starts during the week. At this point, they're going to have to win the tournament, and the tournament's not about a whole week. You want to get multiple innings out of some of your best guys, but when it comes down to that tournament, it's a lot different. It's more compressed time frame, and you're going to need your best guys out there giving you the most innings. So, and then he came back with Diesel on Saturday, which kind of surprised me as well. But Ethan kind of came in and looked like he stabilized things. I had a heck of a game actually after the 5 earned runs that Ethan gave up, and Ethan looked like he was out of sorts as well, starting the game, and that's not his typical role either. So it was a little bit out of sorts from a pitching perspective. And as a coach, I know he's trying to switch things up, and I understand that part because we really don't have an identity as a starting pitching group at this point, and he's trying to find something. And it's just it's a little bit hard on the psyche and the preparation when you're going from starter to reliever, long reliever, closer, that type of stuff. It's a lot different. So there's a lot going on in the minds of those pitchers that people may not understand, the common fan, but there's a lot going on in their preparation and what they have to do and what they have to figure that's coming ahead of them. So they have to prepare for that. So it's a tough situation. Personally, I would have stuck with Ethan Norby one more week against this Tulane team, good hitting left-handed team, that he could have probably done a little bit better and maybe changed the outcome of the first game.
Yeah, there were definitely some parallels between this series and the UAB series, unfortunately, from a starting pitching standpoint of, Brad Pruitt. We only got 2/3 of an inning, and we'll dive more specifically into that game here in a moment. But just the large picture for the weekend there, you got 2/3 of an inning out of Prue, and then on Saturday with Ethan Young getting the ball, he went just 2 innings, and then you got 4 innings from Sean Jenkins on Sunday, and fortunately, you got the stellar relief performance, 6 innings from Ethan Norby on Saturday, which was very similar to what Sean Jenkins was able to do the 2 weekends ago against Charlotte, and so for the last 2 weekends, we've only had one start longer than 4 innings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you don't want to go into a weekend series and only get what'd you get? Almost 3 innings out of Pruitt and Ethan Young. That's not good.
Yep, yep,
Things
two
are
and
not
two
going
thirds.
well if that happens.
Yep. So out of your 3 starters, because I think it was just four even that Sean Jenkins worked in yesterday's game. So that was a total of 6 2/3 from your weekend 3.
Yeah, and Sean actually looked. He had a couple pitches, batters that he faced. He looked kind of strong. I thought he was getting his mojo back there for a minute, but then, like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan till they get punched in the nose. And he had that home run hit off him, which I thought was a bad pitch on his part. Obviously, the guy saw it coming. He could have made a better pitch, but that kind of threw his stats off a little bit. But I thought he did okay. I thought he was getting some of his mojo back, but a couple bad pitches and some bombs, and that kind of turned that one up. But all in all, they got what 4 out of Sean, 4 out of Jake, and then De Lorenzo came in for 1 inning to close it out. But kind of a ho hum game per se from the batting perspective, right? We got a total of 8 hits. Dixon got 3 of them, so and then
Yep.
Irby had 2. So yeah, kind of a ho hum game. Didn't really put anything together, um, and doubles or home runs. We just couldn't put anything together to get over the hump.
Yeah. Early in the game, there was quite a few, warning track or near warning track flyouts, whereas Tulane, Gavin Schultz, I think he only had one hit in perhaps it was yesterday's game, but I think even that was a double. He killed us this weekend.
Yeah, and then the elephant in the room was the getting thrown out at home twice. That's not good, and it wasn't like bang bang type plays. They were out by a lot. I know they reviewed both of them for the catcher blocking the plate, but not a good thing when the infield's in and you run. You're going back to third, and then you start to run again. You don't have any momentum, so that doesn't work. And then you get one that's about 10, 12 yards behind first base at the fence, and you try to run on that. So those two there kind of could have brought us back up. I know we were still down, but we needed those runs to kind of stay within a striking distance, and it just didn't happen.
So yeah, with that game, and there weren't many bright spots, obviously, in that type of performance. Trailing 20-0, then you did show a little fight there in the 5th inning. Have some quality at bats, hit 3 bombs. Nice to see. I think what is the second home run of the season for Kalinich, and gave you a little momentum, if that's possible. Going into Saturday, and Coach Godwin was pretty adamant in the post game, like you would expect him to be regarding just the way that game unfolded. He was asked how the guys would shake it off, and he's like, shake it off. We didn't pitch our best arms, and what were your thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I was thinking that maybe if it was possible to get Norby in earlier, I wasn't at the game, and I know Jr. was, but I don't think he was warmed up enough to be able to come in early enough before it got to like 5-0 or 7-0 there in the first inning. And I know they brought him in. It was kind of surprising, but they only used it for 1 out, and he only pitched maybe 8 or 9 pitches, I think is what you said, Jr. And
Yeah, 8 pitches he threw.
yeah, so he was fine for the weekend. I thought Pruitt might be okay for maybe a Sunday, see him on Sunday, but obviously he'd not come back. But yeah, I'm not sure about that. I know that at that point it got out of hand, so he wanted to use some of his other pitchers. Beschloss came in and gave up a couple runs. Lance came in, gave up a run, 2 base on balls for both of them, so that's 4 base on balls there. DiLorenzo gave up a couple earned runs, didn't walk anybody, and then Brashear, and then as JR had mentioned, Taylor Grubbs actually came in and was the shining light of the pitching staff that game. Although he did give up the 1 home run, actually pitched the best out of the group, and so yeah, he didn't pitch his best players in his mind, but I mean he's used Lance Williams and Gabe all year long. I know Jackson struggled this year, but Brashear and Grubbs came in, and they actually Brashear had a rough outing, but Grubbs came in and settled everything down.
Appreciate everyone
Well,
tuning
wrapping
in.
up.
Very quickly, Jr. Appreciate everyone
I was
tuning
just going
in.
to say, oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Bubba. Go ahead. I'm cutting you off. Go ahead.
Via Facebook or YouTube. Several folks chiming in, and we'll get to the comments here shortly. But this and every episode of Jungle Tales, and specifically
Comments here shortly. But
this
this and every episode of
This Week in Pirate Baseball is brought to you by pgxgloves.com. Batting gloves, golf gloves, football gloves, receivers gloves, DB gloves. There are a couple of their selections there you see on the screen, with the purple and gold diamond, kind of a Argyle golf glove there. And then the GOAT batting gloves, those also are available for the football gloves as well. So go to pgxgloves.com and support former East Carolina third baseman Mark Minikazi. And whether you're coaching a team, your son or daughter plays, definitely quality goods from pgxgloves.com. Appreciate Kaz and his support of the show. And kind of along those lines, we talked about the performance of Ethan Norby. So let's go ahead and announce that Ethan Norby, not surprisingly, was the pgxgloves.com pitcher of the week, the obvious choice. You recall, JR, last weekend at the end of the show, you were asking me if I had any predictions for the upcoming week. I didn't necessarily think it was going to be in a relief role. I thought it would probably be on Friday night, but Ethan Norby, 6 innings in relief on Saturday, a 15-5, 8-inning win for ECU, and did not allow a run, 3 hits, 8 strikeouts, not a single walk on just 78 pitches. So you can do the math there. 13 pitches per inning for Ethan, and just an excellent bounce back performance after a couple of rough outings. So kind of with that, we'll transition back into to JR's point. JR, what do you have for us?
I do stats is to try to make.
JR, start that point again. You were muted. I was getting some feedback, so I muted you.
Oh, okay. I said, I don't do negative stats. I try not to, because one of the reasons I do stats is to try to make people feel better about how they're performing or whatever. But I mean, it has to be said, Friday was the only game this season we didn't even draw 1 walk. Dixon's usually good for 1 himself, but yeah, we didn't get one one batter to first base via the base on balls on Friday, which is very weird. I mean, that almost never happens. So I just added that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. And that's typically what the one in, Barron's or the number one hitter is going to typically get on base. I mean, he's getting on base almost at a 500 clip, but if he didn't get a walk, I'm surprised. So, yeah. I didn't know that.
No. Well, I'm just talking about Friday. Yeah, I mean, Braden did get some walks the rest of the weekend, but
yeah, I know.
But one thing Braden didn't do, and if you want to talk about predictions, I'll go with this prediction. Braden Burris is not going to go without a hit for a full weekend for the rest of the season. There you go. That's my prediction. That was definitely strange. He's still in the top. He's the only freshman in the nation in the top 36 in batting average. And I think appropriately enough, he's number 26 in the nation. So even though he didn't get a hit, he's still, I think he's at 402 or something like that, 403. So, hopefully he'll come back.
Still scoring runs, still getting on base.
Yes, sir.
And had an RBI. And, he's tough at the top of the leadoff role. He's very good at it. Yeah, he's second in the league in hitting still. I know his on base percentage is up there. It's got to be, one or two. But he's going to get on base for you. And he did get his hit streak broken. But yes, he will not go another series with 0-4 on the weekend. I agree with you.
Guys, getting to some of these comments, Ryan Sproul chiming in via Facebook. And I know JR, he's a friend of ours from the left field jungle. He says JR is bringing the heat with all the stats. He's got hot sauce running through his veins.
Ryan's hot sauce, by the way.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ryan.
So Ryan knows exactly what he's serving up there to JR, with the hot sauce. And then
anybody needs hot sauce, see Ryan Sproul. He makes the best in town for sure, no doubt about it.
And then Justin Butts also chiming in saying, still waiting on my invite to the show. And then I responded very quickly, said, we will make it happen next weekend, perhaps. Your boots on the ground in Wichita at X Stadium.
I heard Justin was going to be out there.
Yeah, he'd booked this back, I think, preseason. He had never been out there and just made the decision to go ahead and, not knowing, what the situation in the season is going to be, wanted to get out to Wichita and X Stadium, such a tradition-rich place, although they haven't had a ton of success in recent years. And we'll dive into the shockers more here as the show moves along, as we're talking about the week ahead. But, kind of bringing it back to the Pirates in the 1-2 weekend against Tulane in Saturday's game, a 15-5 win. You fell behind early, and the Pirates immediately respond, answering Tulane's 2-run first with a 3 spot.
Yeah, that was we got down, and I know he tried to stay with Ethan a little bit longer. The 4 base on balls, he just quite wasn't getting that pitch over that he typically does. So, yeah, that kind of lingered on, but we did come back with a 3 spot. But then they came back with 2 more and went up 5-3. And then at that point, Ethan came in and shut things down, and we continued scoring probably every other inning at least till the walk-off by Irby. Yep.
Sorry, JR, I had a little bit of a lag there. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'm going to give player of the game, not player of the weekend, but just Riley Johnson, just for being the igniter. First at bat, he hits a double after Burris got hit by a pitch. And then he just had a lot of energy. I mean, he had his first stolen base of the season. I know that had to be huge for him because, he just doesn't have the mobility that he had. And he used to be, on the base paths, you'd better watch out for for Riley because he could take a base at any time. And so it was good to see him actually steal a base. And now he knows he can do it, and I will probably see some more. But with the bat, he was tremendous, and I just felt like he brought a lot of energy. The crowd, every time, he
Yeah,
got to the
yeah,
plate, they went
he
crazy.
looked like he was getting a little bit more back to himself. He also, I
Yeah.
can't remember what game it was exactly, the catch against the wall there in center, left center. So, some of the stuff that we typically see him doing, he's starting to get a little bit more involved and more physical. I know the shoulders are a big issue, but yeah, it's good to see him in there. He was a type of player, unfortunately, couldn't do a lot this year for us, but he's a type of player that like a player of the year type candidate in the conference. That's how good he was. So,
Oh,
but it's good to see
absolutely.
him out there doing some of the things he did last year. But it'll be a slow little grind up, and hopefully he can stay healthy for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In closing with Riley, I was just going to say, um, back-to-back 5 plate appearances. I wasn't expecting, but that was awesome. After the 5 plate on Saturday, I thought maybe he wouldn't play the full game on Sunday, and now he didn't have a lot of success on Sunday, but he did still play the entire game. So it was nice to see him get 10 plate appearances in the 2 game span, which is what we're used to.
yeah. In that game on Saturday, the 15-5 8-inning win for the Pirates, you had 15 runs on 16 hits, and we played error-free baseball. And as John and Jr. have already mentioned, the Pirates scored in most innings, I think 5 out of 8 to be exact, and 3 crooked numbers: the 3 spot in the first, 6 in the fourth, and the 4 spot in the eighth to walk off the green wave when Austin Irby hit the bomb to left field. And yeah,
Yep.
ECU had 6 players with multi-hit games, and one of those, like JR just mentioned, was Riley Johnson. So great to see Riley uh, get his first couple knocks of the season, one of which was a double. He also reached base a third time via a walk, is like the Riley Johnson that we know.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, and I saw they moved him up in the lineup the last game there. Or actually, they moved him to the second spot in the second game, and he stayed there. And they moved Dixon down to the fifth spot. So that was a little bit of a wrinkle in the lineup, but it worked because Dixon was hitting bombs from the fifth spot with a lot of people on base.
and
Yeah.
how about
I
the
told.
weekend
I'm
that
sorry. I told
Williams had?
Dixon. I'm sorry. You know
You're
what?
good.
I'm slightly. I think I'm just like a quarter of a second behind, and it's messing you up. I apologize for that.
Oh, no problem at all. But yeah, Dixon Williams had a heck of a weekend. He had the 3-run bomb in Friday's game, and then 2 3-run bombs, as well as another hit on Saturday. And as a result, Dixon Williams 7 for 11 in the series, 3 home runs, a double, a triple, 9 runs batted in. So there you see 5 of his 7 hits went for extra bases, with 3 leaving the yard, and he also had a walk. So just a remarkable weekend for Dixon. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come from the Pirate Junior here down the stretch.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
go ahead.
Dixon. I was just going to say they moved Dixon down to 5 now. He's hit a home run from the leadoff spot, the second hole, third, fourth, and fifth. So, I mean, that's pretty unusual to have, someone that can go to any
Yeah,
spot in the lineup and still, knock them over the fence. So,
yeah, that slugging percentage went up, and you're looking at a kid that the last 2 summers he was Player of the Year in the Cal Ripken League, and then he was Player of the Year last year in the summer league he was in. So, everyone knows that he can produce, and seeing him do that this weekend, 9 RBIs and multiple double, triple, 3 home runs. I mean, that's incredible to see, and hopefully that 4 and 5 spot is doing him well with a lot of runners on base because he's really bringing them in.
And I'll give credit here to 94.3 The Game. Patrick Johnson and Stephen Igo of Hoist the Colors in their weekly chat with Cliff Godwin today. Uh, he was asked specifically about the production of Dixon, and Cliff just said that they had multiple conversations regarding just how, with him being a marked man, whether he was hitting second in the order, seventh, no matter where that spot in the lineup was, that he was going to be pitched tough. So you might as well embrace it and accept it and approach it as such. And Dixon's obviously realized that and is producing how we know he can. And he wasn't having a bad year by any means up to this point, but I think he's right around the 280 mark and not quite the production that we would have expected, but I think he's up to 10 home runs now with the 3 this weekend.
Yeah, he's at 10.
Yeah, and another person that's kind of started to hit a few is Irby. His RBI, he might be second on our team for RBIs, either second or third at this point. But I know that he hasn't. He kind of started off well, kind of had some downturns in the middle of the season, but take some bad swings here and there. But for the most part, he's been helping out there at the bottom of the lineup. But yeah, he's another guy that can send the ball out of the yard, and he's just a freshman, and he's had some up and downs this year. And I know Coach has talked to him a few times, but I think that he's done pretty well with the RBI category.
Yeah, hey, I'll just jump in since John's already addressed it. Yeah, it's really, we have a three-headed monster. We got Irby's actually tied for the lead with 35 with Dixon, and then Colby's got 33. So that's pretty impressive right there.
Yeah, and Colby's kind of been stuck there around that 30 to 33 mark for a little bit. But he on Friday night, Colby actually hit some very hard hit balls that did not fall. He had 2 that one would have been out of the yard on another night, but yeah, he hit some hard hit balls on Friday night that just didn't find an opening. But yeah, that's the
Yeah.
1-2 punch there for RBIs. They seem to do well when runners are on base. Irby's kind of snuck up on us with his RBI thing. You never would have thought it the way he had been.
Indeed.
Yeah, kind of a little slump in the middle of the season, right? So yeah.
And then he sat out a game and he came back with a vengeance. Seems like.
Yeah.
So I was there. Yeah. Yeah. Just to finish up on your point, John, about some hard hit balls. On Friday night, I was in left field, and I'm telling you, the first 4 at bats we had were to the warning track, or the first 4 outs we hit were all to the warning track. And I think there was at least 5 or 6 more. And we had 9 or 10 balls that were hit right to the wall. Just didn't get a lot of help, but we were making contact. We weren't striking out a lot. This weekend, we only struck out 17 times, which that's a conference low for us. But for an entire weekend series, I mean, the only time we've struck out less than that was against William and Mary, and that was 16. So that's kind of a, if we're being more selective with the pitches and striking out less, that's definitely a positive going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. There were a lot of hard hit balls on Friday. Unfortunately, the game kind of got out of hand for us, but yeah, we were hitting the ball very well. There was no doubt about that.
Yep.
So kind of wrapping up the weekend, I know we discussed Sunday's game a little. Again, a 7-2 loss, 7 runs, 9 hits, no errors for Tulane, 2 runs, 8 hits, and no errors for the Pirates. ECU did have some chances. John mentioned how we ran into 2 outs at the plate. I believe the score was 5-1 on both of those, where you had a chance to get some momentum. And I know at least was on the second one, and then the Pirates left 9 runners on. So it's not like some opportunities weren't there, but Tulane just left 2 men on, and they made the most of of their chances, whereas we did not.
I would agree.
Yep.
Because that was a
Hey, one
game.
good thing.
It was
One good thing.
2-1 going into the fifth inning.
Yeah. Hey, one good thing before we wrap up the weekend is that we've gone 5 games now without an error. You know, people think that we're losing because we're committing errors. I heard it last night. I don't know if you heard it or not, John, but that we're not committing a lot of errors. I mean, we're getting much better there. So,
Yeah. I mean, there had been some cases earlier in the year. It
oh
does
my
seem to have
goodness.
smoothed out. Yeah, it was. There were some
Oh, we were
situations.
terrible. We were the
Yeah.
worst. But we're
Yeah.
better. I
Yeah.
mean, we're improving for sure.
But yeah, someone did, and I think that's kind of got caught into the lingo of the season that we're making errors still, but we really aren't. And I did hear the same thing last night, but somebody actually called it out. Was that you that called them out on the show and said
Well,
they're
I don't
actually
want to even
not
talk
making
about.
errors?
No, I don't want to give too many clues to what I'm talking about. I respect those guys immensely.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I no,
no,
it just
they
it
just
wasn't even just that show. I hear it at the I hear it when I'm at the game. Oh, you know, but it's like, hey, dude, we're not. No, yeah, we have, but we're getting better. Give us credit. I keep saying us and we like I'm on the field.
yeah.
But
Well, that's typical of a fan. We all say it. I
uh,
haven't played in many, many moons, but I still say we and us the same way.
yeah.
So,
In any
guys,
event,
some more comments here, via Facebook and YouTube. Definitely chime in if you're watching live via either of those platforms. You can also comment on X. Um, Post at us on X, and we'll read your comments on the air. But Justin Butts said, "Has anybody seen the Twitter post about Cliff possibly leaving for Mississippi State?" That's funny, JB, because we were actually talking about that 11.7 podcast post just before we went on the air.
Yeah, I
So,
was wondering when
guys,
you
any
sent.
thoughts on that?
Well, when you sent me that earlier today, I started thinking, I'm like, okay, we have another school in the SEC that needs a coach. Are they going to come after Coach Godwin? But I didn't have time to comment on that, but I did think about the same thing when you sent that to me.
And not to dwell on this, but just for folks who may not know, the diehard Pirate fans certainly know this or are well aware of it. Cliff's talked about it very openly on numerous radio shows and podcasts, so it's no secret. But just the situation that unfolded with Alabama following the 2016 Super Regional run, and then you also had last season the situation with South Carolina before they hired Paul Maneri, and kind of ironically or coincidentally there, Cliff Godwin's former boss down at LSU, and then also they worked together for Team USA, the collegiate team, and then following the 2021 season, Cliff Godwin's name was, he was very much in the running, down at LSU before they hired Jay Johnson. And so,
Yeah,
and before when Mississippi State hired Chris Lamonis, who guided them to a national championship, but it's been largely downhill since. Um, Cliff Godwin's name was mentioned in connection with that Mississippi State job. It's obviously very strong ties to the state of Mississippi with everything he did at Ole Miss, helping guide that program to Omaha back in 2014.
yeah. So his experience in the SEC is obviously going to, and then his success at ECU is going to pop his name to the top of the list anytime a job opening comes up, and that's not going to be any different in this case either. Now going back to Paul Maneri going to South Carolina, they haven't had such a great season this year, so I don't know how many years he's going to. South Carolina probably expects to win quicker, but it might take him a couple of years down there. I'm not sure how they've done in the portal or anything. I haven't looked that hard, but they've kind of struggled in this first year down there.
Yeah, definitely intrigued to see how that plays out with Paul Maneri at South Carolina, because Mark Kingston, it's not like they were just a dog with Coach Kingston, but they definitely did not live up to their expectations. Last year, I think they perhaps went 2-2 or something like that, maybe 1-2 at the Raleigh Regional before they parted ways with Coach Kingston, and Mark Kingston was rumored to be very much on the hot seat prior to even playing in Raleigh.
Yeah, so that'll
And
be interesting to see how it unfolds for Coach, for our coach, and what
right,
happens with that program, Mississippi State. Now, Missouri might be looking for a coach, but I'm pretty sure that they would not come calling for Cliff. But they haven't won a game in the SEC this year. I haven't really dug deep into what's going on in Missouri, but
yeah,
every SEC team's above 54 in the RPI except them, and I think they're 110 or something.
yeah, definitely some intriguing storylines out there in college baseball. You know, be it teams that are playing very well, or in Missouri's case, really, really struggling. And we'll dive into some more of those here in just a moment. Before we do, let's take a look around the American at what transpired last weekend. In addition to the Pirates dropping 2 out of 3 at home to Tulane, you had UTSA, the Roadrunners swept Memphis, and you had them. You know, they took 2 games fairly convincingly, and then they had to win one in extras, if I'm correct on that. I really believe that's what I saw. And then you had South Florida take 2 out of 3 out at Wichita State. Charlotte won 2 of 3 at Hayes Stadium there in Charlotte against FAU, including a 3-0 win on Friday night with Blake Gillespie on the mound. And then you had UAB. The Blazers took 2 out of 3 in Birmingham against the Rice Owls. And so you have UTSA sitting atop the league at 15-3, 33-10 overall. And now they have an RPI of, in some places I've seen 27 in this case, via D1 baseball at 28. So the Roadrunners and Pat Hallmark's club is very much in the running for an at-large bid should they not win the tournament down in Clearwater.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
they're
I
in a good,
agree.
yeah,
I
they're in
was
a
just
good
going to say,
spot.
yeah. No, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say they're in a good spot, 15-3. Yeah, they're going to have a couple tough series coming up. East Carolina's going to play them tough. I know they will. And then I think they play South Florida as well. So the next couple weekend series with UTSA, ECU, South Florida are going to be interesting. But
Yeah.
it does look like they're going to stick at the top, and then it's going to be a three horse race for second, or maybe 4. We shall see. But yeah, the UTSA is the cream of the crop right now. If they had to do an at-large selection, they're the only team in the conference that would be at large at this point as well. So they've had
Yeah.
a great year, and we talked
Tulane
about this
play-by-play
in the
Corey
green
Blower
room.
had.
I was going to tell you we talked about it in the green room, and I know JR, you want to bring this up, but top 3 RBI guys in the league, all from UTSA. The on base plus slugging, top 3, all 3 from UTSA. Great hitting team. Tough to beat.
Yeah. Batting average, 4 of the top 5.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. That's tough to get from one team. And like Bubba said,
Okay, well, with their sweep, I mean,
they're 15 and
yeah.
3 with
No,
their
I was
sweep.
saying I didn't want them. Yeah, I didn't want that to occur, but since it did, it makes me feel a little less bad about losing to UAB because I thought at that time I was like, that could be critical. We're trying to catch UTSA, but and I mean, realistically, we're just not going to catch them. They're just on offense. It's a machine. I mean, they're averaging almost 10 runs a game in league play, and they're average winning by 4.75 runs per game in league play. I mean, some teams don't even score 4.7 runs, and it's just I haven't seen anything like that for several years. So hopefully, come tournament time in the AAC tournament, they'll run out of pitching or something, and we'll be able to take them out. But we'll see.
Yeah, and this team that East Carolina has this year, I played on a team similar, 1991 team. We did not have the best of year. We did go on a little run late in the year, ended up 30-18, and won the conference tournament. Had to win the conference tournament, and then we ended up going out to X Stadium and playing Wichita. Talked about that earlier. So it can be done. You do have to kind of get on a run here, and once you get that momentum going, go into that conference tournament and just win it and move on to your regional. If that's the case, unless UTSA loses the conference tournament, they're the only team that's going to be in from our conference, so that's not good. So we need to get on a little roll here so we can take them out and join them in the national tournament.
Amen.
And Corey Glore, when we chatted with him a week ago, he had very strong praise for UTSA, especially that lineup. Today, I caught up and recorded a conversation with the longtime play-by-play voice of the Wichita State Shockers, Mike Kennedy. Ironically, the same name that Elon head coach has, the longest tenured coach in the state of North Carolina, tied with Elliott Avent. Coach Kennedy having been there at Elon for right at 3 decades now, but and the Pirates playing Elon tomorrow. But we already caught up with that Mike Kennedy. Today we caught up with the Shockers Mike Kennedy, and he had nothing but excellent things to say about that Roadrunners lineup, and how potent they were, and just how they reminded him of so many of those East Carolina offenses where it's just such a strong lineup, 1 through 9.
Yeah, definitely. You can look at the stats just off on paper and see that. But I was going to tell you, I want to say that Elon coach is so long tenured. The last coach before him was Billy Best at Elon, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're right on that. I had honestly forgotten that Coach Best had been the head coach at Elon until you and I were talking several weeks back, prior to the first meeting with the Phoenix, when I told you I had interviewed Coach Kennedy, and we were chatting about how Billy Best had been there as well.
Yeah, if you want to look at Elon has beat some top 5 teams in his history. He's knocked off some big dogs in his time, so pretty impressive over
Yep.
there in Elon. So
Yep. I remember that 2002 regional down at Clemson, one of the hottest days I've ever had in my life, in that final game 6 of that regional. It was so hot, guys, that they had Gatorade water coolers behind the grandstand there at Doug Kingsmore Stadium with Gatorade cups where you could get free water because the heat index was 110. And, it was kind of they're doing their best to prevent a situation like we had at Dowdy Ficklen Stadium at that 2012 football game against App State.
yeah, when it gets hot, yeah, they need. I'm not surprised. I've been in situations down in Gainesville one year where it was so hot on the field, I felt like I was going to pass out. But no, I was going to say, before we talk about the Wichita State series, I think a lot of your viewers need to go out and watch the interviews you had with Gene Stevenson of Wichita State. I thought those were some great interviews you had with them. Kind of get some background of the old school great Wichita State teams. I know they don't have quite the same dynamic they used to have, but they used to be one of the best teams in the country year in and year out. So I highly suggest everybody go out and watch Bubba's interviews with Gene Stevenson.
Yeah, I appreciate that plug, John. And those were interviews that were done a few years back, actually on my personal YouTube channel, which is just at Bubba Rosenbaum on YouTube. And maybe I'll share those on our social media at Jungle Tales Pod this week with the Pirates playing the Shockers this weekend. And I know you referenced that 1991 team where you guys went out to X Stadium, #1 Wichita State, and had the Shockers in a 5-0 hole, but unfortunately, a very explosive offense that they erupted there in the mid to late innings and went on to a 10-5 win.
Yeah, they had the bases loaded. We were up 5-0 around the 5th inning, bottom of the 5th inning, and they hit a hot line drive. It could have been caught. It wasn't caught, and then they went on and scored 10 unanswered and beat us 10-5. But we went out there and gave them a run for the money. We had a freshman on the mound, and Johnny Beck. A lot of people know Johnny, and he went out there and held his own on the mound, and we scored some runs for him, but we just couldn't hold him down.
But
And to be honest, we were playing really good baseball at that time. Like I said, we had went on a run, and we had went through our conference tournament pretty easily, and we were kind of rolling. So it wasn't. We went out there and we were the last seed, but we really shouldn't have been the last seed. I mean, Ryder was ahead of us. We beat them easily the second game, and ended up playing Ohio State in the third game. And this was back when it was only 48 teams, and um, Ohio State was number 10 in the country, and they took us. They beat us. I'd say 5-4 or 4-3, something like that. We played very well out there, and if we had beaten Ohio State, we'd have got back in and had a chance to get back at Wichita State, another chance. But very tough team. I know if anyone that goes out there is going to get a unique situation. They have quite a fan base, huge stadium, and it's a unique place. I know it's not quite the way it was in the '80s, early '90s when they were winning championship or going to World Series with Gene Stevenson and his brother who played for him, but it's quite an atmosphere of baseball out there. So I highly recommend anybody can get out there. Please go.
yeah, Justin Butts. Hopefully, JB will enjoy his trip, and definitely no other Pirates that have traveled out there in the last several years. When the Pirates and Shockers have been squaring off, and would love to get out there myself one day. Have definitely never been to the state of Kansas, but taking a look, you know, at the big picture, like you said, it's clear. We're going to have to win the conference tournament. Pirates RPI now sitting at 80 after the series lost to Tulane, and we'll start off the week at Elon against the Phoenix, and we're going to start Brad Zayak, but not surprisingly, as most midweeks often are, this will be a staff game. But Brad Zayak's had a quality outing or two here of late.
Yeah, I've mentioned it in a couple weekends before. He's pitched a couple outings and done pretty well. So hopefully we can get several innings out of him and see where we can go from there. Get a win, get the momentum going, get out to Wichita State and sweep them this weekend, and then kind of watch how I think UTSA plays South Florida. See how that unfolds.
Yep, because I knew the Roadrunners travel to Tampa before they make their way to Greenville, so that does bode well on the road with two challenging series back-to-back weekends, because there definitely is a lot of ground for someone to make up. And the Pirates are 10-8 in the league, while the Roadrunners are 15-3, and Charlotte put themselves back into decent a decent spot there. I think they're third now with a big series win at home over FAU. And the Niners, I think, are 11-7, and they did lose their series to UTSA at home, um, falling 2-1. A little bit more about Elon, the Phoenix, 19-24 overall, 9-9 in the CAA. East Carolina won the first matchup back, I think 3-4 weeks ago now. April 2nd at Clark LeClaire, 7-5 in that one. ECU jumped out early and then had to hold on in the late innings, with Elon scoring, I think, at least 3 or 4 out of those 5 runs in the 8th and 9th innings. But again, ECU 7-5 winners, and most recently, Elon last weekend, they had a series sweep of North Carolina A&T. North Carolina A&T had gone to UNC Wilmington and won that series back a few weeks ago, but Elon takes care of the Aggies there in Elon at Latham Park, 14-8, 2-1, and 8-7. And they also had a very good midweek win over High Point, who's having a very good season. 12-11 winners over the Panthers at High Point's Willard Stadium. And for reference, High Point is 30-14 on the year.
Yeah, they've had a good season. Yeah, so Elon is always somebody that is not going to roll over and play dead. They're tough, and they're always going to come out, and that coach is always going to have their team ready. So it's going to be a good start to the week. We need to get that win and kickstart our weekend.
And last thing I'll say regarding the Shockers, I was not, you know, or I am rather, very surprised in where they are. I think 13-30 or something like that now. Let me refer back to the league standings here. Yeah, 5 and
Yeah.
13 in the league, 13-30 overall. I would have never guessed that Brian Green's club would be where they are at this juncture. And that's something that Mike Kennedy and I discussed earlier this afternoon. We'll drop that conversation sometime on Wednesday, probably Wednesday morning, following Tuesday night's matchup with Elon, as we'll get you ready for the Pirates and Shockers doing battle at X Stadium this weekend. And you think about Wichita State, guys. Last season, they made the run to the conference tournament championship game down in Clearwater, finished 32-29 and just one run shy of advancing to the road to Omaha. And going back here, taking a look at the league standings preseason, they were number 2 behind the Pirates, with Tulane 3rd and UTSA 4th. I was a little surprised that
In the preseason
UTSA.
media poll, is that what you're talking?
Yep, that is
Yeah.
the preseason media poll. I wasn't surprised that the Pirates were picked to win it based on us winning 5 straight, but I was a little surprised that UTSA was 4th, even though it was, well, actually, it was a little bit wider margin. I thought they were 55 points, as opposed to, you got the Pirates with 80, 72 for Wichita State, and 63 for Tulane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so last year was UTSA's first year in the league, right? They did pretty well. So it was
Yep,
pretty
correct.
shocking.
They started off strong, taking the series from ECU there in San Antonio, but you know struggled a little bit down the stretch, especially in Clearwater.
Yeah, and Wichita State, surprising they haven't what they've done this year. I would expect it a lot better. Rice has done exactly what we thought. They did have to make the midseason change coaching wise, but I see them kind of getting better and changing things around. So we should see a lot better Rice team coming up in the next few years. As far as Wichita State, it's unfortunate. I don't know what happened to them this year, but yeah, they were up there in the preseason. I think I told you after about a month, just wait, they'll come back, they'll come back, but it just has not came to fruition. So
I
unfortunate for
think,
them.
yeah, I think part of Wichita State's problem is their pitching. I mean, we have our pitching issues, or the Pirates have their pitching issues, but Wichita State, I mean, I don't even think they have a starter with an under 5 ERA. Maybe they do. He might have a 4.86 or something, but I mean, if you look at all their starters and what they've done so far this season, and the bullpen's not much better at all.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't have any. But you know what happens, John? And Bubba too. It seems like every time we go on the road, or even at home sometimes, and especially on Sundays, a pitcher that is not well thought of for the other team has the game of his life against us. It happens time and time again. Hopefully not this weekend, though.
and this is something that you and I, or maybe it was me and you, John, were discussing earlier, just how Wichita State, even when they haven't been much more than mediocre, especially out there at X Stadium, they've played us very well. They swept us the last time we had all those travel difficulties. And even when we've won 2 out of 3, they were always very, very competitive games from what I recall. And so
Oh yeah.
I'm certainly not taking anything for granted. They were able to get a 7-5 win over South Florida at home last weekend, snapping a 9-game skid. They've dropped something like 10 out of 11 or 11 out of 12, and yeah, definitely not assuming anything. We have to go out there and play our best baseball.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I think it was 2 years ago when I was going to say, I think it was 2 years ago that was it Peyton Tole that beat us on the mound and with the bat, and when they swept us. And it's just a hard place to play. But here's an interesting fact, although it's not a good one. The Pirates have a better winning percentage on the road than they do at home this season, which is extremely unusual. But that's the case this season. So maybe that'll serve us well on these next 4 games.
Guys, looking at the larger picture of the college baseball season, obviously coming into the year, Texas A&M, despite losing their head coach Jim Schlossnagle, Michael Early, so much talent within that program. They were preseason number 1 for D1 baseball. They got off to something like a 14-16 start, but have since turned it around. They had won, I think, maybe 10 of 12, something along those lines, winning series against Tennessee and Arkansas on the road, in addition to a home sweep in between against South Carolina. And then this week, what a super competitive series, unlike you would expect, in Austin against the Longhorns. However, they were the losers in 3 one-run games, 2-1, 3-2, and 6-5.
Yeah, Texas A&M did not start well. They have played a lot better. Texas has lost their number 1 starter for the year to shoulder surgery. That's unfortunate. They have a tough team regardless. But yeah, they lost their number 1, and we'll see how that plays out. I know that hurts. He was a heck of a pitcher. Um, but yeah, keep going, Bubba. You want to talk about it? I can talk all day about the other conferences as well, but I'll let you lead on this deal.
Well, in addition to some of the storylines within the SEC, what are some of the things nationally that may have stood out to you, be it in the ACC or otherwise?
In the SEC this year, it looks like Florida is going to do the same thing as they did last year. They're going to make the tournament based on their RPI. Didn't have a great year. They also started out the top 10. They did take 2 or 3 from Arkansas this week. They beat up Zach Root pretty bad. I think he gave up 5 earned runs against them. So he didn't have his best game out there. As far as the ACC goes, obviously NC State is the hot team in the country. They've moved up to number 13 from 20. They're playing extremely well right now. Talked to a couple guys that know people over there. That team's doesn't have a lot of holes in it right now. They're playing exceptionally well. They've won 7 or 8 in a row, as has Notre Dame. Actually won 7, 8 in a row. Georgia Tech has lost 8 in a row. They dropped out of the top 25. They had a good year going, but they've slipped lately. And UNC actually lost a game up at Pitt, and they still moved up to the number 4 spot in the country, and Clemson stayed at 3. So I can see NC State, if they continue what they're doing right now, getting in the top 10 pretty quick, and then looking at a regional, a super regional, a regional host, obviously, but then, could host a super regional as well.
Yep, the Wolfpack with that sweep of Clemson, which I hated to see, especially with a couple Pirates guiding that Clemson program. Eric Bakich and Nick Schnabel, they're having a heck of a year, but a rough weekend at Doak Field as NC State, continued to build on its momentum and as a result are winning the ACC, as I think you said. And obviously you have Florida State. They were in Omaha last year and having another very solid year. Intrigued to see how the Seminoles do in the Big 12. I have not seen what they did last weekend, but West Virginia, I know the Mountaineers are having a very, very good year, and
They lost 1 game. There's still only 5 losses on the year, which is incredible.
yeah. So what are they now? Like maybe 34-5,
35,
35-5.
35 and 5, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So who was that series win over most recently last weekend?
I'll have to dig that one up. I don't have it on Was it UCF? UCF?
That sounds like that may. It seems like that
Yeah,
may be
they swept UCF after losing to Penn State on Tuesday. So they lost the midway week game and then they swept UCF.
Gotcha. Another something else I wanted to note. Unfortunately, with the Pirates' record and RPI at the moment, it really won't matter all that much. And this team does their RPI is 120, but you know, there when the Pirates struggled to win that opening series against George Mason, you know, a lot of people were laughing because George Mason was picked down at the bottom of the Atlantic 10. Well, right now they're in a three-way tie for first. I know the Atlantic 10 isn't the strongest of leagues, but James Quinn Irons is a heck of a center fielder, one of the better players in the nation, receiving shout outs on D1 Baseball's podcasts here recently. And they are 29-15 overall, 14-7, tied with Rhode Island and St. Joe's atop the A10.
Yeah, and is that their coach's first year, right? They had a first year head coach?
I
Or
think he's been there a few years, and
oh, he
then
has, okay. Yeah.
yeah, and he had been there as an assistant prior to getting the
Yeah.
head coach
I,
job.
I'm pretty sure that he came into the season with some pitching woes that seem to have worked out for him a little bit, but I do recall that they had some pitching problems early in the year.
And something else, kind of on a different note, you have remember how Stanford started their ACC play? So hot, winning their first two series, including I think it was a sweep of the Tar Heels. So now they're 7-17 in the league, 9.5 games back, and then you also have Cal 6-18 in the league, 10.5 games back, and they had a relatively good start to league play as well, and both of those programs have really fallen on tough times, and it was really surprising with Stanford because they were thought to be a very quality club with definite postseason hopes, and quite possibly to capitalize on their recent success, according to D1 Baseball, but it has not worked out for the Cardinal.
Yeah, they have not. And another team that had been kind of keeping our RPI up there a little bit, Virginia Tech's kind of been hit or miss here recently. But really, the biggest surprise in the ACC is the team that has on paper the best roster, and that's Virginia. It's surprising they started out. I mean, what were they? Top 10, top 5, and they really. I mean, they're 24 and
Yeah, no,
16.
number two.
Yeah, and that's just shocking to me. Them and Texas A&M. Texas A&M's kind of turned it around, but Virginia's played okay, but they do not play like their roster says it should. But we'll see what they do when they get into the tournament. I think their RPI is actually 71 at this point, so I'm not sure how that unfolds typically. Bubba, you probably have more idea from an RPI with the ACC teams getting into the tournament. Probably going to be a little bit more favorable for ACC teams.
Yeah, and I think JR, something you
Yeah.
threw out last week. What was that? I
Yeah.
think maybe
I was good. Well, it was the last four in last season, the last four in. None of them were.
John. Can you hear JR?
I cannot. I lost JR.
Yeah, JR, we lost you. If you can hear us, I believe what he was going to say. I know the last four in a year ago. I think the lowest RPI of one of the last four in, via an at-large bid was, I think 55, somewhere in the mid to upper 50s, and so
Yeah, so that would be shocking to see Virginia not make the tournament. I
yeah,
would be very surprised at what happened to that team this year.
definitely has some work, plenty of work to do down the stretch. And the last point I had regarding the national landscape is how the Pac-12 teams that the Big Ten added bolstered, that league. And you have Iowa, that's 20-4, but following the Hawkeyes, you have UCLA 16-5, Oregon 14-7, USC 14-7, and the Washington Huskies 13-8. So, after the league, first place team with the Iowa Hawkeyes at 20-4, the next four teams in the standings are former Pac-12 programs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's expected. I know early in the year, Michigan was expected to do something this year, but they didn't. Also out west, Oregon State. I guess they're independent in baseball at this point.
Yeah,
Not
very
sure what they're.
unique situation there with the Beavers.
Yeah, but they're gonna be in the tournament. But yeah, that is. So, what is their plans going into the next year? They're gonna stay independent. Have you heard anything?
I'm honestly not sure. I'm sure I
Yeah.
probably have seen something, but I do not recall um, that situation there. But
Is JR back? I haven't heard him.
JR, are
Okay.
you with us?
Yeah, I don't hear him, Bubba. So
All right. So Oregon State 32-10, and I think last weekend they played Oregon. Yeah,
yeah, I
and
wonder how
yeah,
their
they
schedule.
were at I think it's PK Park in Oregon,
Yeah,
and
scheduling purposes, I wonder how they do it, but
they
strange
were swept.
situation
They
at
were
this
swept
point.
by the Ducks.
Yeah. Okay.
4-2, 13-1, and 3-2. That
Well,
surprises
yeah.
me that they were swept.
Yeah, me too. Yep.
But
We shall see them in the tournament, though. Oregon's doing pretty well. UCLA's kind of came back a little bit this year, but they've done well. They've done well as well. So
final thing I have, guys, is a quick update on some of the Pirates that are in professional baseball. Unfortunately, Gavin Williams did not have a very good start tonight. In 2 innings, he allowed 4 runs, all of which were earned on 7 hits, 2 strikeouts, and 2 walks, as he fell to 2-2 on the season. After a stellar outing against the New York Yankees.
he did.
I can't remember. I think that was after we recorded last week.
It
So
was.
wanting to go ahead and mention that again, the performance that Gavin had against the New York Yankees, where he went about 6 innings and allowed just 1 or 2 runs on a handful of hits. And then I know Connor Norby, I can't recall who the Marlins were playing, but he had a 3-hit game. I think it was yesterday, including a no-doubter home run.
Yep. He got his first home run of the year into left field, and yeah. So he's been a little bit injured, banged up, but we know he's a hit machine, so it's just a matter of time for him.
Also wanted to mention the performances of Zach Agnos. The last time we were live on This Week in Pirate Baseball, JR and I talked about how Zach had been called up to Colorado. Later on that night, he got his first outing. He got called in, or inserted into a 2-1 game against the Nats. Threw up a 0. Despite quite a loud out there for out number 3, but he got the job done. And despite the 410-foot fly out, and then
Welcome to
Zach,
Colorado, right?
yeah, exactly. And when he went into the dugout, he said his teammates were saying, "Hey, we knew it wasn't gone." He said, "Well, I'm glad y'all knew because I didn't." And
Yeah.
yeah, because I was watching it. I was watching it live when I saw it come off the bat, and I was like, "Uh-oh." And then fortunately, it was caught on the track. But then he also 2 or 3 days later followed up with another inning of quality relief, and Jeff Hoffman continues to shine for the Blue Jays. Sean Armstrong's and doing some good things for the Texas Rangers, and the Blue Jays and Rangers are either at or near the top of their respective divisions.
Yeah, they've done well. Blue Jays seem to have a little pipeline of East Carolina Pirates right now, but he's done very well. Whatever's called him, he's up there dominating, getting saves, getting wins, holding teams down. So he's been impressive in Toronto. And then they also, down in the lower ranks, we have Yosavich down there doing his thing as well. He's at a 15.8 K per 9 inning rate at this point. That's elite. Obviously, that'll come down as he gets into the major leagues, but he's doing exactly what they expected of him early on. So good things are going to come out of him. And then also another Blue Jay we have. Go ahead and remind me of that one.
Yep, Carter
Position.
Cunningham.
Yep, position player. Yep,
Yep, he's with the Vancouver Canadians in high A ball, and a
that's
little bit
right.
more about Trey Savage. Trey Savage, to this point, has a 3.12 ERA and ranks among the FSL leaders in that low A ball with the Dunedin Blue Jays. 28 Ks, which is tied for first. John mentioned the Ks per 9 innings, which is in first, and
Incredible.
a 153 opponent batting average, which is third,
Yeah.
and then
Tough.
a .98 whip, which is eighth.
Yeah, he's not walking people. He's not giving up a lot of hits, and he's got filthy stuff and striking out a lot. That's a good combination.
And
Hey, Bubba, can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you,
we
JR.
can.
Wow, I have
you
no
dropped out.
idea. This is
So
2 consecutive weeks I've had phone issues, but last week I was in Virginia. I'm in Greenville now. I should have been good, but I couldn't get back on. So I apologize. I was talking and nobody could hear me. I just wanted to add
JR,
something, but yeah.
we just talked. We're talking about the Pro Pirates, as you see there on the screen.
Yeah. I just
Talking
wanted to
about
add
how
something real quick.
Gavin struggled in his start tonight, but had an excellent 6 1/3, 2 runs on 8 hits against the Yankees. I guess it was earlier last week after we had gone live. So I wanted to
Yeah,
mention that performance. And I
I was
know.
just going to give an update on
Yeah,
Zach
please do.
Agnos.
Please do.
What do you got for Zach Agnos, JR?
I was just going to say Zach is now he still has a 0.00 ERA. He's pitched 5.1 innings, given up 5 hits, struck out 1, but he hasn't given up a run. 5.1 innings, so.
So he's doing exactly what he did in AAA. He's continuing it at the show. So that's pretty good stuff. Going back several years, when you talk about the Agnos brothers, I never would have thought Zach would have been the one in the bigs early on. And I know that Jake was drafted pretty high, in the Yankees organization, but Zach's kind of surprised me. I'll go out on a limb and say that I knew he was a great ball player in general, two-way player at East Carolina. But in my opinion, I never expected him to make the major leagues like this at this point. So very surprising, but it's a very awesome story,
John, did you realize that he could reach 97? Bubba and I did not. I was shocked at that.
Yeah, you read my mind, JR. That's where I was going next, to how he was 97, 98.
Yeah, I did not. Yeah, I don't know. I did not know that either. That's what I'm surprised. I really am. Obviously, he has good stuff because he pitched very well. He was the minor league pitcher of the year for the Colorado Rockies. So, you know he has good stuff, and he's showing it now. So, wow. Props to him because I never expected this when he was a two-way player at East Carolina. Knew he was a great player, but just another one of those. He was young during the Vanderbilt regional, but another Vanderbilt regional player that's in the bigs. And I know Jack Leiter has been a little bit injured, and then Kumar Rocker maybe had one good game. But that group from that Vanderbilt East Carolina regional, very impressive. Both teams.
Absolutely.
Couple more things very quickly, guys. Here as we wrap up. Within the last few days, we had the groundbreaking for the Isley Indoor Performance Center. Part of that Pirates Unite Capital campaign is, of course, the Dick and Sarah Bennett baseball building that we're going to have down the left field line at Clark LeClaire. There you see one of the first renderings of that. It's going to house a new locker room, professional locker rooms. So when the likes of, Burley, Jeff Hoffman, Trey Savage, whomever, whatever former Pirates are in professional baseball that want to come and work out at East Carolina at Clark LeClaire Stadium and the auxiliary weight room, etc., then those doors will be open for them, and they'll have a spot where they can have their laundry done and excellent facilities to hone their abilities during the off season, and that's something that was very very needed. And I think the price tag on that ended up being somewhere in the $9 or $10 million range due to inflation, and it will really help us continue to bring the caliber of players into the program that we need in order to accomplish our goals.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's pretty awesome. And like you said, a lot of players like to come back and they want to get their workouts in. They have a spot for them. And, looking at all the new stuff we have here, I'm a little bit jealous because I remember we were in the field house over there by the stadium having to walk to the field, and things are a lot different nowadays, but it's an awesome thing to see, and I'm so glad that these players get to experience such awesome facilities, and that's just a testament to how good East Carolina baseball has came along and how much uh, pride we have in it from a university perspective, and the amount of money that our fans and donors are willing to go out there and provide for us to be able to come up with top-notch facilities at this point.
Something else I definitely wanted to make mention of and highlight is Tommy Eason. Congratulations to Tommy Eason on his 600th win and there at Pitt Community College. And I know as a former teammate of Tommy's, how proud you are of all he's accomplished.
Yeah, and I knew it right away when he came in as a freshman that he was a winner as a ball player, and I knew he was going to be a winner as a coach. And I know he coached with East Carolina for a little bit as a assistant, but I knew when he got a head coaching gig wherever it was going to be, he was going to be successful. So, congratulations, Tommy, on your 600. Well deserved and well earned.
Yep, Tommy Eason, of course, one of the first members of the staff under Keith LeClaire back in 1998. And he was hanging up the cleats in professional baseball and had the chance to return to East Carolina. And initially, I'm trying to remember exactly what the role was, if it was, kind of a student assistant or GA role, and then he became the pitching coach for Coach LeClaire, in those magical seasons, where we were number one seeds and hosting a super regional.
Yeah, and nobody better to have as a pitching coach. He was awesome as a receiver, catcher. When I pitched to him, and many others will tell you, one of the best out there at doing his job, and um, great defensive catcher. Obviously, his offense was elite as well. So you got the full package when it came to Tommy, and then and he as a coach, I can see that he brings the same exact mentality to his coaching that he brought as a player, and I know he gets the best out of his players. So uh, he did coach with LeClaire. That was a awesome time, and know it kind of came to an end there. But anyway, we got to see Tommy do some great things at Pitt and at PCC Pitt Community, and he's got 600 wins, so that's pretty tremendous.
Yep, and he was a key cog as a pitching coach for Randy Mazie from 03 to 05, including that 05, excuse me,
50,
04 team that
50
won a school record 51 games.
yeah, 51 games. Wow, that's a
Yep,
lot of games. Yeah.
but
I thought our 47 was a lot, but 51 is pretty impressive.
yep, and that team was absolutely. No, we didn't play well in the conference tournament. We went 1-2, and I'm sure Coach Mazie would perhaps change the way he handled things from a pitching standpoint in that Conference USA tournament. But that team was still undoubtedly hosed. I mean, from a national seed. because we had been ranked in the top 10 and really top 8 all year, as high as third. And, with those couple losses in the final week of the season, we unfortunately had to go on the road for the Super Regional with South Carolina. And I remember several
South
Gamecock
Carolina.
fans saying, you guys got a raw deal and we shouldn't have been playing you until Omaha.
Yeah, and I felt that was a very similar situation when we had Gavin and Carson and Norby going to Vanderbilt. Those two teams should have been in Omaha. There were two great teams, and obviously Vanderbilt had their stud pitching, and we had ours. But that was really not a super regional matchup. That's an Omaha matchup.
Yep. Well, guys, if you don't have anything else, we'll go ahead and wrap up this edition of the show. We appreciate everyone tuning in. If you love East Carolina baseball the way we do, and so many thousands of Pirate fans do, make a donation to the 23 Club. No gift is too small, and $23 per month. And by doing so, you allow Coach Godwin and staff to level the playing field and bring the caliber of players into our program that we need in order to get to Omaha. And you can go to 23club.org, or you can follow them on social media to see everything they have going there on X as well as Instagram. And then lastly, be sure to follow the show at Jungle Tales Pod on X and Instagram, as well as YouTube. Like, comment, follow, subscribe, and we appreciate all your support of the show. But for former East Carolina pitcher John White, Johnny Stats, and then everyone here at Jungle Tales, we'll talk to you soon, and we'll wrap up the week that was with Elon and Wichita State this coming Sunday. We'll talk to you then, and as always, go Pirates.